This is the Comics Alternative, on location at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find in Charlotte, North Carolina. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Comics Alternative on location. And I am at Heroes Aren't Hard to Find. They're located at 417 Pecan Avenue in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're in the area, definitely check them out. Heroes Aren't Hard to Find. It's definitely a place you should visit. And in fact, this is my first on-location episode at Heroes. I haven't done an on-location show since summer of last year. I recently moved to Charlotte, North Carolina from the Dallas, Texas area, as listeners of the podcast will know. But I knew about Heroes before I moved to Charlotte, because every time I would come to Charlotte to visit family and friends, I would always make it a point to stop by the shop and see what they have. They have a great collection. I would also see the people who work here at the annual HeroesCon over the summer. And so I talked with Shelton Drum, who is the owner of Heroes, and asked if he would be interested in me coming in monthly to do an on-location show, and he said, sure, let's try it. So here I am. And we're at the first of what I hope will be many, many on-location shows here at Heroes. So for those who haven't listened to the on-location series in the past, because we haven't done it in a while, I'll just go over real quick what we're doing. Basically, I go into a shop and talk with whomever wants to talk with me, customers, shop employees, people who come in for the long haul, people who just do a drive-by, comment here or there. Basically, anything is fair game. We are a podcast that primarily looks at non-DC Marvel comics, although on these on-location shows, anything is fair game. And in the past, I know that I've talked with a lot of shop customers about what's going on with DC, Marvel, and their universes. So that gives you kind of a rundown of what our on-location shows are about. And right now, I have a couple of people here with me. One, a customer of Heroes, and another, an employee of Heroes. Isaiah?
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. I just met you a moment ago, and you came in, and I think you bought. You have some DC Marvel stuff there.
It's all DC.
All DC. Okay.
Just this week, though.
Just this week. Okay. In fact, we were talking about before we turned on the mic what's going on with Marvel, and maybe that can be a conversation topic. But you're here. Thank you for joining us. And Karla Marsh is here, and I originally met you, I guess, at a HeroesCon where you were working, I don't know, registration
I've been to every
tables.
HeroesCon, so it's possible you met me at a HeroesCon. I've been to all 35 of them. So
yeah, so I'm glad that you're taking a time away from the register. Now, we should mention that yesterday was Wednesday, the 17th, and we planned on doing it then because it makes sense. A lot of people come in.
Yeah, it's New Comic Book Day.
Exactly. But for those in the Charlotte area, you know that the weather was a little unusual yesterday. We had quite a bit of snow. How many inches did we end up having?
No, there was some weird white stuff that fell out of the sky.
Yeah.
Most of us don't know what that is. I think we ended up with like 3 or 4 inches of snow yesterday, which,
sounds right.
Throws everybody south of the Mason-Dixon into a tizzy.
Yeah, for Charlotteans not used to that, it can be debilitating. And so we decided to postpone this until tonight, Thursday night, the 18th, which is fine. And so here we are in Heroes Aren't Hard to Find. And if other people come in and want to talk to us, both customers and if shop employees walk by and want to share a few comments, that'd be great as well. So, Isaiah, what are you picking up? What are you reading right now?
What I have in my hand: Batman, Batwoman, Justice League, Super Sons. Only because they're an event. I actually stopped reading that.
What?
Superman and Trinity. Yeah, I stopped reading Super Sons. It's cool, but it's not that cool. I pick up like 15 titles a week. I can afford to cut out Super Kids. It's good though. The relationship between Batman and Superman. The family dynamic is really explored in that, and I like it a lot. But it's also explored in like Trinity and Justice League sometimes. So if that was the only reason I was picking it up, then it was okay to not get it anymore.
It's explored in the most recent run on Batman too.
Yeah, for sure.
Just the regular Batman titles got a lot of family therapy sessions going on at the
Super
moment.
Friends arc was very touching.
Now you were telling us before we started the recording that one of the things that I guess has made you, how should I put this, less than enchanted with Marvel right now is their addiction to events.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned something about a DC event, but Marvel overdoes it.
Well, DC, I mean, it's like 6 years ago, you got the New 52, and then now, just recently, just Rebirth and Metal, and then, this little, like, 5-issue arc is not what I meant by events, but, like, Marvel with Legacy and Marvel Now, like, right after the New 52 and Rebirth, and then, like, Weapon H, all these new events and new characters, and the Legacy numbering now, where everything went from whatever, like, 1, 2, 3, 4 it was, to, like, 188, 189, whatever, some random number they pulled out of some run from the 80s is now the common number, and it's so hard to keep up with Marvel like that.
It's technically, so like, they picked up where they left off. So, yeah, the legacy numbering is, if you don't,
it would be cool, but
confusing.
the stories don't pick up where they left off. Like, the stories are the same as they have been, so you just, like, change the numbering.
Right.
And Silver Surfer, when I was reading Silver Surfer, they would do that. They would get to, like, whatever current arc was going on, they would do 10 issues, and then it would be number 1 again. And Moon Knight does the same thing, and it's hard to keep up because you're like, number 1, I already have that. Or, like, which one is this? And when you want to go back and get everything, it's which number 1 do I need? Or, like, who was the artist? It's so hard to track down anything as opposed to DC, which keeps it, like, 1 through 10 to, 11
number 1 of another
5.
storyline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I it's this numbering thing that really bugs me about, well, not only Marvel but also DC, but especially Marvel, and to me you can't have it both ways, right? So I mean, if you want to resort to new number 1s like every other month or sometimes twice a month, who knows, in order to sell, because number 1 issues tend to sell more than others, then that's one thing. But then after doing that, when you fall back on legacy numbering, that really mixes things up. It gets confusing after a while. So, I don't know, it's just pick one or the other. And, I've never been a fan of renumbering at the almost drop of a hat. Sometimes twice a year.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, DC's doing it, too, with Detective and Action.
Mm-hmm.
Because they
want
to
Legacy.
have a 1,000 copy of Action and a 1,000 copy of Detective.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I just feel like that made sense to me, though, because I don't know, Action Comics and Detective Comics are runs that have been around for so long, and it was the only 2 that they did, and it was at the launch of the whole universe, not just randomly within that series.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, I was cool with that.
I mean, Action's been around since 1938. So.
Exactly. See?
Yeah, so, yeah. It deserves issue 1,000.
It deserves a nod.
Which we will get soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a couple of months, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Actually.
Yeah, it was, solicited, was it last month or the month before?
I think it was November, perhaps it was solicited.
Yeah, because issue 1,000 is going to be, it's going to be a hardback, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
They'll also do a single straight issue, too, but it's going to come out as a hardback first.
Yeah. So that'll be pretty cool. I usually don't get individual issues of, let's say, the main DC or Marvel universes, but I did pre-order that issue 1,000 hardback of Action. So
they get you somehow.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
So why not?
It's a milestone.
It is. Well, what about, so in addition to DC and Marvel, what else are you guys reading? Do you read much Image? Do you read smaller press stuff? Do you tend to gravitate more toward individual single issues of comics, or trade collections, or original graphic novels, all of the above?
It depends on the title.
Okay.
Like my interest in the title. I read Boom Studios because they do Power Rangers, and I read Power Rangers. Mm-hmm. And Bob's Burgers for a little bit when they did those, and American Gods, which is Dark Horse.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. That's about all I can think of that's like stuff I keep up with. But I'm always open to picking up like, a trade paperback of something that isn't Marvel or DC, just to give it a good read. But those are the only two I can think of that I'm like keeping up with is Power Rangers and American Gods.
I read that first issue of American Gods. In fact, we reviewed it last year on an episode of the Comics Alternative, and I liked it. The description at the very beginning of that issue, I remember thinking that it gave away spoilers, and so that just didn't make sense to me. But other than that, I liked that first issue, but I decided that I would just wait for the first trade to come out, which will be out in another, month or so? Yeah. And I have not seen the television series. Have either of you seen?
I've seen a couple episodes, but I'm trying to keep where I am in the comics to where I am in the show, and the show jumps around a little more than the comics. So
have either of you actually read the novel?
Not yet.
I have not.
That both of these things are based on?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've read the novel, and then I've picked up the first couple of issues of the book, and then I'm like 5 episodes into the TV show.
How close are the comics to the novel?
They're different.
Like way different?
Not way different, but different enough.
Good different?
Good different.
Okay.
I would say different in the same way that the Walking Dead TV show is different from the Walking Dead comic. Different. It's... You kind of get the feel for where it's going, but you don't really... The characters that die in the book are not necessarily the characters that die on the TV show. Mm-hmm. Some of the characters that are in the TV show are not in the book, vice versa. So...
Yeah,
like Daryl,
right?
The biggest heartthrob in the TV show is
in the book is like, who's that?
Yeah, exactly.
Daryl, what?
Yeah, no. And in fact, I like that. I mean, there are things about the Walking Dead TV series that annoys me. Honestly, I'm tired of the whole Negan thing on TV. Not necessarily tired of it in the comics, but I'm just like, just move on. But one of the things I like about the TV series is that it's just enough different from the comic book series that someone who, let's say, consumes one but not the other can appreciate it without having to know.
Right.
Like for instance, my wife watches the TV series. She's never read an issue of the comic book, and that's fine with it. Every now and again, she'll ask me, in the comic book, is this person dead? Is this person in it? And once she assured me that she would probably never pick up an issue, then I started telling her kind of spoilery kind of stuff.
Right. But who knows if it'll actually be a spoiler?
Exactly.
Which is kind of ingenious.
Yeah. Other series that do that, though, I noticed that, and I haven't watched all of the most recent season of this, but Preacher, at least in that first season, it was different enough from the original series, and I liked that. At first it threw me, but then once I got into the 3rd or 4th episode, I'd say, okay, they're going kind of a different direction or decompressing things in a certain way. And I like that. I don't think a TV series or even a film has to be, I guess...
Word for word.
Yeah, has to worry about fidelity to the original.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, that the comic, maybe there's a comic book spinoff, has to be exactly like what the original medium, let's say a film or a TV program, was. Right. I mean, that's one of the things I really like. Oh, in fact, have either of you watched Happy?
I have not.
On Sci-Fi? Oh, okay. Have you read Grant Morrison's Happy?
No.
From a few years ago?
I did not. Eli, did you?
Never read it. No. I keep selling it, but I haven't read it yet.
Eli's another shop employee, and he's over at the register doing work.
He's piddling.
He's or piddling, I guess. Maybe we can get him to come over and say a few words into one of the mics
Eli
later.
reads a lot of really interesting stuff.
Come to the mic, Eli.
Yes. So, okay. Oh, wait, he's coming over to the mic now. Hey, Eli, how you doing?
How's it going?
Let's get a mic near you.
All right. How's it going?
Okay. So, have you read Happy?
I have not.
Oh, okay.
I sell it quite a bit, but I have not read it.
Well, it's good that you're selling a number of copies. I don't think it's the best Grant Morrison's done, but I think it's pretty good Grant Morrison, and it is typical Grant Morrison, very offbeat, strange, and I can see where a number of people wouldn't like it, especially if, let's say, you read his run on, I don't know, Invisibles or Doom Patrol, and you thought that it was a little too wacky and out there. It's that kind of story. I think that the TV series, and I think it's going to be in 8 episodes total, is even weirder than the comic. And I think episode 6, if I'm not mistaken, I haven't seen it yet, but I think that aired last night. And it is wild. The actor, and I can't remember his name, but the guy who was on...
Christopher Maloney?
Yes, who was on Law & Order Criminal Intent. Not Criminal Intent, Special Victims Unit.
And Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah. And he plays the lead role really well. And it is a wild, wild ride. Again, the television series, much stranger than the comic book series.
I wondered how they were going to do it, just being a 4-issue comic series, but people seem to like it.
Yeah. At first I thought, well, maybe it will be just a 3 or 4 episode miniseries on Sci-Fi, but no, I think it's 8. It's going to be 8.
The series is just 4 issues?
I believe so, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Really
I thought it was like a whole run I missed somewhere.
It's not very big. But speaking of Sci-Fi, I guess they're picking up my favorite comic.
What's that?
They're picking up Deadly Class as a show as well. Rick Remender.
I heard that it was being developed, but I didn't know what outlet it was going to be on. So it's going to be the Sci-Fi Channel?
Yeah.
Huh.
I'm pretty excited about it. It's my continuously favorite book of mine. And then they put like Henry Rollins of Black Flag is going to be a surprise character in there as well, which is cool. I don't know much more about the show, but nobody that they've cast is anyone else that I know, which I'm excited about. I don't like seeing big names because then I can't not see them, if that makes sense.
This is curious. I wonder of all of Remender's properties, ones that are currently ongoing right now or even previous ones, why choose that one to adapt?
Well, it's... All right, so it's also one of the only books that I read the letter pages on, and I think a lot of it has to do with how much I know he goes back and like reads old diaries of his from middle school and high school, and just kind of really hones in on his angsty emotions and kind of puts them into all these characters really well.
Okay.
I also love him making fun of the Smiths every once in a while. It brings up some 80s music that is both great and terrible, and he sides with my opinion on it as well, probably. Beyond that, I don't know. I guess some of his shorter runs of series, like Tokyo Ghost, was great, but it was just 12 issues, and I've never actually read Black Science, and another guy who works here, him and I argue always back and forth, like who can sell what more, whether it's Black Science or Deadly Class. And I think there are two different types of readers. Deadly Class is definitely a little violent, but maybe that's why I liked that there's nothing supernatural in it as well.
And maybe that's another reason why they're adapting Deadly Class instead of some of his other titles, because Black Science is science fiction-y, and so there would be quite a bit of special effects.
Right.
In other words, it would cost more for the production.
Right.
The same thing with Load. Another one that's currently ongoing. It being said, it's kind of sci-fi-y. Taking place underwater, I guess above water at times as well. But with Deadly Class, it being set in the 1980s, it's not as if there's a lot of setting and casting reproduction that is going to cost as much.
Right. He even actually mentions, I think in those letter pages, somebody was like, why did you base it in the 80s besides like it being your time of growing up? And he was like, also because cell phones complicate the heck out of everything. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, this person could have told this person was coming to kill him with a text, but back then, you couldn't. So it's things like that I agree with. Usually if there's a cell phone on the cover of a comic, I don't even pick it up. Something, it's kind of strange way of looking at books.
So you probably don't read Snot Girl.
I actually do, partially because I gotta stay with it. My partner Sarah, she reads it as well, and it's interesting. We actually talked about it the other day, how it's not a lifestyle that I am at all in tune with. Her vision of life, snotty, and Snot Girl. But it's still a fun read. I just don't know why I'm reading it every once in a while. You know, I'm like, I don't like this person in real life, I don't think. But I'm sure it's going somewhere. It's got to. Yeah. Maybe.
One of the things you said, and maybe Karla can speak to this as well. You said that I can't remember exactly how you put it, but I got to read it.
Yeah,
but both of you are shop employees. I mean, do you feel that there are certain titles that you absolutely have to keep up with? Do you feel like you need to sample around, and read, let's say, a number of Image titles, several IDW or Dark Horse or what have you?
Karla may feel different about it, but I know that when it's a big enough book, or if it's got enough talking behind it, I'll check out the first issue, maybe the first arc. But then if it's got people talking about it, I might tap out just because it'll start selling itself in a way.
You hear enough through the grapevine that you don't really have to.
Right.
You don't have to read everything word for word. You can pick up a book and flip through it and get the gist of. We're in the shop 40 hours a week, and boy, you don't go to work in a comic book shop if you don't want spoilers, because people come here to tell you everything they know. And that goes for comic books and movies and TV shows.
Have you spoiled things, Isaiah?
I don't do that. I feel like I don't do that.
Is not one of those people.
Okay.
I'm just saying, in general, the public, they can't keep a secret. So, like a few months ago, when Unworthy Thor ended, it had just come. It was Wednesday morning, and it had just come out. And at the very end of that book, you figure out, what it was that the Watcher says to Thor that then makes him unworthy of Mjolnir, his hammer. And I hadn't even had it hadn't been on the rack for 10 minutes. And somebody was like, "Oh my God, did you see the bloop, 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 bloop?" I was like, well, now I don't need to read it. Now I know the whole payoff of these, what was it, 6 issues, 8 issues?
8.
5?
I think it was 8.
It was so yeah. And then a lot of times, I don't have to read everything. I don't have to read Walking Dead, and I don't read Walking Dead. I don't read the TV show. I can tell you everything that's going on in both.
Just because you hear so many people talking about it.
Just because people come in here to talk about it.
Same.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know who's dead in the TV show. I know who's dead in the book.
Yep.
The second that, something happens that makes a specific issue relevant or more relevant or seems like it'll be more of a collector's item, we're the first to know, because people just can't keep a secret. And, in a way that's good, because I don't want to read The Walking Dead. No offense, Robert Kirkman. I just don't. I don't like zombies. But that's good. I read lots of other things. Y'all want to talk about Jim and the Holograms? I am your girl. You want to read about Catwoman? Yeah, let's talk about it.
Now, did you watch the original Jim and the Holograms?
I did.
You did?
I did. And Masters of the Universe? I am your girl. You want to talk He-Man? You want to talk She-Ra? Let's do it. But, I'm not reading the same things that 90% of our customers are reading, but I think that's what makes us a good shop. I'm reading a bunch of stuff that Eli's not reading, and Eli reads a bunch of things that I don't read, and the other people that work here, they all have their own taste. Justin likes a specific genre of stuff, and Seth likes something different, and Rico likes something different, and Isaiah over here, who doesn't work here, he likes a bunch of stuff, and it's nice. You don't have to read everything.
Yeah. Although I came in this morning and Karla was reading one of my favorite books.
That's true, because you've talked about it forever, and I was like, you know what? It's a snow day. I took it home with me last night.
What was it?
Giant Days.
Yeah.
I haven't read any of that yet.
It's good.
It's good. It's a slow burn. It's three.
And it's a non-superhero.
Yeah. It's just 3 girls who are
slice of life.
Freshmen in University of England, and just they don't seem like they would normally get along, but they just do. And
they're the odd trio.
Yeah. And just silliness happens, and it's fun.
Shenanigans happens, as does life.
Now, is that something that comes out through Boom or Kaboom?
I think it's Kaboom.
Okay, so it is kind of it skews for kind of younger readers.
Yeah,
maybe.
Sort of.
And there's a reason why I'm asking.
Right. Now, that one does get a little, like, if people come in for an all-ages book, that one's the one I'm like, it could go back and forth depending on your views, you know.
There's going to be some terminology in there that's definitely...
There's some innuendos.
For the, you know,
there's an
18
issue,
and over.
Right. There's an issue or two about quitting cigarettes.
Like, there's smoking is referenced.
And they just become really grumpy, so you never know. Like, some people don't want to see their kids looking at books where kids are smoking cigarettes.
That's good. That's good for your children.
Right.
Yes.
Tobacco is
Well,
wacko.
there's also,
right?
there's also, like, a storyline where the girl, like, goes out to a club, and then she takes a bunch of, like the no-dos, and then she gets... It's like a very special episode of Saved by the Bell, where Jesse... took all the caffeine pills and, you know.
See, that kind of stuff builds character.
Yeah.
Kids need that.
Well, one of the reasons why I ask about the tone or the orientation in terms of reader age for that is, again, I haven't read an issue of Giant Days, but it's always struck me, especially when I see its solicitations, as something for maybe more teenage readers, maybe not. We have one of our monthly shows on the Comics Alternative is the Comics Alternative for Young Readers, and the two co-hosts who do that show, they look at books for not only children but also young adults, so older, younger readers. And that always struck me as something that they may review, but they haven't yet. So I was just curious.
They totally should. Yeah. It's especially like that older, younger reader kind of type.
Because they've looked at a number of Kaboom books in the past. So if, that just strikes me as right up their alley.
Well, it's like Jim and the Holograms is also one of those, like, it goes into some serious subject matter. And, like, dealing with sexuality and lots of other things that, teenagers and young adults are battling with. So sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure if this is for, like, the 3 to 10-year-old, but... It's a good book for all ages. I'm just not sure. The little kids are not going to pick up the nuances of transgender situations. So
yeah, and I never thought. Again, I haven't read an issue of Gem and the Holograms, but again, just looking at the solicits, that hasn't struck me as something necessarily for younger readers.
Right.
If for no other reason, because it has, I guess, maybe in ways that. Deadly Class appeals to many, kind of a nostalgia factor, right? So you can read an issue and really appreciate it because you grew up watching the show.
Right.
Or you can read Deadly Class or maybe something like watching Stranger Things because it references so many things in the 80s that would really resonate.
Right.
When my kids, especially my son, watched Stranger Things, he would always talk about, I really like that it references 1980s stuff. Of course, he wasn't around then. It's like, well, there were some cool things in the 1980s, but also there were some very much not
Paper
cool
Girls,
things.
Right?
Oh, I love Paper Girls.
Okay.
Yes.
I was going to say, if you like Stranger Things, that's what we try to put in your hand next.
Yes, exactly. Oh, no. Almost anything that BKV does, I'm going to try.
Yeah.
Maybe not some of the mainstream stuff, but he doesn't really do that much anymore.
Not so much now.
Yeah.
He's mostly just creator-owned.
Yeah, which I really, really appreciate.
I'm all right with that.
Yeah. The last superhero thing was that Doctor Strange, I think? Like, it's been a while since he's done anything for superheroes.
Yeah. Now, his Ex Machina, I mean, that's a superhero narrative.
Right.
When it was, I guess, Wildstorm? And that was cool. I love that.
Right. Yeah, definitely good.
But, I tend to gravitate toward things like Image. We were talking a moment ago about, I guess, buying habits, individual issues or trades or whatnot. And, it's gotten with, I guess, especially Image, because they price many of their trades, if not most of them, really nicely.
Yep.
I've just been trade waiting.
And they definitely have that kind of stuff on lock. Most of their books, volume 1's $9.99, and I can tell customers all the time, like, hey, if you don't like the first one, it's fine because it's only $10, and if you like it, they're $14.99 after that usually, but you're already sucked in,
Yeah.
And for them to let you give it a try for $5 left is a nice gesture from the first point, you know?
Oh yeah, I think that's a great business model.
Yeah.
And even $14.99 is not going to break most people.
No, it's still cheaper than if you got all the single issues.
Oh, yeah.
For some of those titles.
Yeah, exactly. Now I guess my context in terms of trade waiting, and I feel whenever I interview creators, for instance, many creators who have titles at Image, I feel bad talking about trade waiting because I know that it doesn't benefit them.
Right.
But being in the media, being a podcaster and a reviewer, I'm on a lot of mailing lists, so I can get digital copies. Sometimes they're annoying to read, but I can get individual digital copies of issues. And so if I have those, what I'll do is I'll just wait for the trade. Instead of getting the single issues in hard copy, since I have them in PDF format, I'll just get the trade.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
They look better on a bookshelf, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Better than sitting in a box.
I love single issue.
I do too.
Because I have like giant stacks of boxes filled with single issues, and like trade paperback is cool to read, but then like you put it in there, it looks so sad.
Yeah.
I just read so much, and it looks like so little.
Some people want it the other way around. They don't want the clutter of single issues, and they want their hardcovers to look good on a bookshelf.
Yeah.
I keep standing so far.
I just always wanted like a really big collection when I was a kid.
Right. Yeah, kind of like single issues are for the things that I know I want to keep around, and I'll double dip and have singles and then trades and then hardcovers. But
Yeah. It just depends on what it equates to my love for whatever character or series that
Right.
is. Like stuff I'm gonna pass to my kids will be like, this is, I have this first, all the single issue of Silver Surfer, and then I have like, here's the trade paperback for, I don't know, Captain Marvel, because I felt like I should read it.
Well, what are your thoughts on digital comics? I mean, we mentioned just now the potential problem of storage.
right.
Physical copies, whether single issues, books, trades, what have you, they take up space. And I know of a number of people who have just stopped getting physical copies of books, or at least as many, because of the space-saving measure.
Right. It's it's a real thing, minimalism, and I'm the same way. Like, I don't like clutter. I don't know. It's a tricky conversation, and if people feel that way, it's even harder to sell them a book for sure. But I've kind of trimmed my things down to 7 or 8 short boxes of just like, I know I'm never going to want to part with these kind of thing, or like I'm collecting that artist or writer kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But digital is something I've never even really tried. I think I downloaded 1 or 2 the first times they kind of threw in some download codes when you bought the book. But that also to me was like, I was always downloading music and running out of space on my computer. Mm-hmm. While that's not really a thing anymore, I just never really got into it. So it's kind of hard for me to really talk too much about. But every once in a while I have somebody come in with like a Mac or a, what do they call it? The tablet, the huge tablets.
The iPad?
Yeah, the iPad Pros, and it's just like a full page, and then you can zoom in, and it gets real nice. Mm-hmm. It looks better than I thought it would, but I still like turning a page.
Yeah.
I like coming home and smelling like paper and dust.
Yep.
Okay, the smell of paper, I'm definitely right there with you. I don't mind reading individual issues on a tablet, but there is something about the physicalness or the tangibility of some comics that make it absolutely necessary to get them in hard copy form. These are easy examples, but, just, I guess, most recently, who did this? Bad Mask? Chad... And I'm blanking on the name. We reviewed it on the podcast back in, I think it was November. But basically, it is a box with a lot of different components to it that I guess together could be argued that it's a comic of some sort. Because there are parts of it that are more traditional comics. There are other parts that are supplement to comics. But I originally got a review copy of this in PDF format, which was fine because I could see what the content was. But I later got a physical copy of it, and the physical copy does a lot more because you get the various pieces of this quote-unquote comic or graphic novel, whatever you want to call it, in different sizes, different formats, pamphlet paper, flyer, what have you. Very similar in some ways to Chris Ware's Building Stories.
I was going to ask if that's what it was. Okay.
Yes, it's something very much like that. I mean, Building Stories is much more ambitious in terms of what Ware was attempting to do there. But, Building Story, I guess you could read it in digital format, but why would you?
Right.
Because it takes away from what he was attempting to do in telling the story that he was trying to tell. And in fact, I remember when that first came out, I had contacted the publisher and we were going to review it, and we did review it on the podcast. And I got the quote-unquote book, or what I thought was a book, in this really big box. And I said, what the hell is Pantheon sending me? I mean, it was a really big box. And I opened up the box and I pulled out Building Stories, the box, and at first I thought, did he create a game
right
to go along with the graphic novel? But no, that was the quote-unquote graphic novel, Building Stories in a box and its various components. I think there were 14 different texts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was wild. But again, I mean, that's a good example of where the tangibility, right? I mean, you need the physical copy. But, there are other things as well. I mean, the feel of the paper, the texture of the paper, with some especially more indie or alternative published things, that becomes very much a part of the story that's being told.
Right, yeah. Any Ed Piskor book right now,
Ed Piskor is a good example of that.
It looks like he's on newsprint, and he's got his paper all looking faded, like it's been sitting in the sun too long. Mm-hmm. It's it's thinner paper, which is nice too.
Yeah. Another example recently is Katie Green's Lighter Than My Shadow, that graphic novel from Lionforge. Now, we reviewed that book and even interviewed Green on the show last year, and I originally was sent a digital copy of it from Lionforge, which, I could get the story and understand what went on and know the content in order to discuss it on the show and then later interview the creator. But then I got a physical copy later, and the way that the paper is and the coloring, which did not come out near as well as it should have in the PDF, is just much different in hard copies. So that's another one of those texts that you need the physical copy in order to appreciate what's really going on.
Right, yeah, definitely. I think I'm sure there's plenty of others. I just have to think.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people who produce mini comics. I mean, it is, if you get anything on John Porcellino's Spit and a Half website, all those mini comics that he sells, as well as other kind of comics, graphic novels, and what have you, it is the physicalness that makes it so important. Emil Ferris in My Favorite Thing Is Monsters, another example from last year, where the physical copy of the book is necessary. I mean, again, the digital, you can understand what happens in the story.
Right.
But it kind of takes away from what she's trying to do if you don't have the physical book.
Right. Definitely. I just brought that home recently. It was out of print for so long that I haven't gotten to read it. But it's home.
Have you guys sold many copies of that in the shop?
Yeah, it was hard as much. It got some press when it came out, and it was a short print run, so it took a minute for it to come back in and sell it again. But yeah, it's an easy sell, especially once you kind of give some of the backstory of what it's about and how she came up with the story itself. It's a pretty easy sell.
Yeah, one of my favorites from last year.
Yeah.
Have you read it or checked it out?
No.
Oh, you should.
Very good.
Yeah.
We might even have it.
Oh, make a sell.
Oh, no.
I know.
I think Paper Girls is my next thing.
Have you read any Paper Girls yet?
No, but I have a friend who keeps bothering me about it. So now I feel like I have to.
You should.
It's a good one.
I hear it's really good. I'm excited to read it. It's not like I have to, but
It is a good one. Behind on it a little bit, but I liked it up to where we are.
Yeah, it's good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your new location, because was it back in the fall or maybe late summer you guys moved from right around the corner into your new location here on Pecan? Yeah,
it was, we moved in here beginning of September. I believe it was Labor Day weekend was our first weekend in here. We'd kind of known the move was coming, but didn't know exactly when. Basically, August, we were like, ooh, we got to be back there September. So we started just moving. It was It's kind of fun, honestly. I really like the new location. I'm sure it was stressful for everyone else because I had a lot of, hey, just hold down the shop and sell things. Both locations were kind of open. Like we closed one day and opened the same day from one location to the next. So I don't doubt that some of the more people putting more physical work into it were stressing out and more exhausted. I just got to sell books the whole time. Mm-hmm. And then day of moves a lot of heavy furniture, but it was fun. And the amount of work we put into this place, I really enjoy it. It means a little bit more, I think, because we actually busted knuckles tearing up floors and stuff like that.
Now, how does the size of this location compare to the size of your older one?
It's about 400 square feet less. That's what we figured out.
Now we have on the mic Shelton Drum, the shop owner. Shelton, hey, how's it going?
Howdy.
We're just talking about your big move from last year. Have you gotten over it yet?
No. We're still kind of finding our way where everything goes, and we just rented a new warehouse so we can consolidate all the stuff that we've got in mini storage at various places. So, yeah, we're getting to normal, but not there yet.
Yeah. Now, I was asking Eli about the size and storage and whatnot. I mean, do you find that you need more storage space having moved over here, or?
Well, this used to be our storage facility. Okay. Yes. So we've got about the same retail space, but everything that was in here had to go into storage, and we had stuff already in storage at that time. So we're just trying to consolidate it all and make it easy to get it.
Okay. When do you think you'll be set up in here in a way that you're satisfied it's comparable to where you were set up in the older location?
Well, I mean, we're doing business now, so I'm pretty satisfied with being here. But there are aesthetic things that I want to do. Little
Spider-Man's return.
Spider-Man's on the way back. Some more lighting, better signage, exterior paint, and hopefully a mural. So I don't know if it's going to be by Free Comic Book Day or by HeroesCon, but I hope so.
Yeah, and looks like you got the parking lot situation taken care of next door.
Well, the company that bought the building that we were in is refurbishing the whole strip center and worked on the parking lot. It's not technically our parking lot, but it's right next door to us, so I'm not going to say no.
But you can always park on 8th Street.
Yeah, there's plenty of on-street parking. 8th Street and Pecan Avenue both have lots of free parking, and it's only like a block or less to walk. It's a nice walkable neighborhood, so we encourage that.
Now, have you found any change in traffic between where you were and where you are now?
Well, initially we saw a drop in traffic. I mean, we were pretty disorganized, I guess, and people weren't absolutely sure of where we had moved to, because we had planned to move to a different location, and kind of at the last minute being the last 60 days or so before we moved, we decided to stay in the neighborhood and just work it out here.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about what's going on, not this weekend, but next weekend.
Oh, the Charlotte Minicon.
Yeah, the Minicon. So,
41st anniversary show.
Okay.
Started way back in January of 1977.
Wow.
At the long gone Eastland Mall when it was brand new.
I remember Eastland Mall.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up in Charlotte. I used to hang out there all the time.
Yeah. It was a great facility when we were doing the show out there. And those little shows were fantastic. I mean, a lot of the dealers that we still have that everybody, comes looking for were the dealers back in those days. So kind of proud of the fact that we're still doing it 41 years later.
Now, I've never been to one of those because I haven't lived, until last year when I moved back to Charlotte. I hadn't lived long-term in Charlotte since late 1986.
Okay.
Which was probably right around the time or right after you first opened, right? Because Heroes has been around since
1980.
1980. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I remember coming in here right before I left town and selling you a lot of my comics.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Which I regret doing, but I needed the money. It was one of those deals.
Yeah.
So yeah. I mean, I've come back to Charlotte for HeroesCon, but not for the mini-con. So who all is it? Primarily dealers? What kind of artists or creators are going to be there?
Well, we like to keep it and bill it as a classic, old comic book convention where it's old comics, some creators sketching, doing autographs. In recent years, we have more people coming or trying to come in as vendors selling peripheral stuff, and we have a few of those, but mostly it's comic books for sale. We have 24 bona fide comic artists there on the floor, and then we sell a certain amount of space to indie publishers and craftspeople and things like that, but primarily down on the floor it's all comics and comics creators.
Okay. And if our listeners want to find out more about this, especially those in the Carolinas who can make it there, where can they find out more information about the where, when, who, and all that?
Well, of course, our website, heroesonline.com, and all of our social media platforms. We're trying to get the word out there.
You got an events page on Facebook?
We do.
We do. It's Charlotte Minicon. And all of our social media handles are Heroes Online. But we're really excited to welcome Al Milgram to town. It's the first time I've ever had him at a show. I mean, he's done everything in the world over the years, and he's a complete creator, too. So kind of excited about that. Our friend Brian Stelfreeze will be here again because he is here for everything we do in Charlotte. He's like my brother. So excited to have him back. And our locals, Andy Smith and Bud Root and Jason Latour's not on the guest list at the moment, but I talked to him the other day, and he said, "Yeah, I'll be there. I'll be stopping by for a while." So
he used to work for you, right?
No, actually, he didn't work for me, but he's been a customer since he was a kid.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought he worked at Heroes.
Matt Fraction worked here, and Dustin Harbin worked here.
Yeah, I know Dustin.
Casey Jones worked here.
Okay.
So we had a few.
Okay.
And I've Bridget Scheide. Yeah.
For Connell now.
I've tried to get Jason to stand behind the counter at least for a day just so I could claim him, but he just won't do it.
Oh.
But he's a neighbor, so he's one of us.
Cool. Okay, so what can you tell us about HeroesCon coming up in June? Anything special?
We haven't really announced any of the guest lists yet or even put tickets on sale, but it's coming. It's going to be bigger and better than ever, I heard. We do have some guests already kind of lined up that we haven't announced that we've never had before, and we're looking for more, and we hope we have all our regulars back, and Karla's been crazy busy selling out the room, so it's going to be full.
Okay. Well, we can talk about that in much more detail in the months to come when I come in here and talk with you guys, and you can reveal, month by month how things are developing, what's going on, who can we expect, and all that.
Absolutely. We'd love to do that.
Yeah.
But yes, Father's Day weekend again, June 15th through the 17th, 2018, at the Charlotte Convention Center.
Yeah, I have to tell you, it's my favorite con because it is a really nice mix of both the mainstream and the indie stuff. You go to a lot of cons. Let's say a lot of Wizard Worlds, and I have nothing against Wizard World, but
I do.
For what it is, I guess it does okay. But it's either the mainstream or other media like television, film, and whatnot, which, it's fine, but to me that's peripheral, or it's beyond peripheral. But then you get something like SPX. I love Small Press Expo, don't get me wrong, I love attending, but it's only the small press stuff. But the things with HeroesCon, it is both the small press, indie, mainstream, big names, people who no one's ever heard of before. I like that mix.
Right. Well, that's kind of what we're shooting for. There are so many conventions these days, and they've really segmented. Some are everything, and others are something specific. We're specifically comic books and comic art, and from wherever it comes from. We're not interested in having actors. We're not interested in having, movie stars or wrestlers or any of that other stuff. You know, we're interested in having the people who make comic books. Mm-hmm. So, and we look at all types of comics, and over the years, I'm a mainstream guy. I'm mid 60s now, and I've been reading Marvel comics primarily since the early 60s. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of where I was going when I started the show, and it was a comic book related thing. And as we grew up, the show grew up. I had younger people working in the store, and they had other interests. We started inviting other people, and a few years back, it was Dustin Harbin who came up with the Indie Island idea. Mm. And I said, well, heck yeah, let's put it right in the middle so those guys get exposure, because they're going to find Chris Claremont or, Jim Steranko wherever they are. Right. So we tried to focus on having independent artists and writers and up-and-coming people that, weren't in the mainstream yet, right in the middle of the room. Mm-hmm. And we'll fan out from there. So gave people some exposure, and it's worked real well for us.
Yeah, I love it. And, listeners of the Comics Alternative know that for the past several years we've gotten tables there and have done a lot of on-the-floor interviews with creators, both mainstream and indie.
There were almost 600 creators there last year.
Was that the biggest?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. We
There were 800.
Well, I know we had over 800 tables, but I'm talking about actual creators because, some people get 10 and 20 tables. Right. I won't name any names. But, yeah, we had a lot of creators there. We overran what we had allotted for Artist Alley, had to kind of spread out to some of the other walls. And we don't expect it to be any different this year.
Yeah, that's good. I look forward to seeing who's going to be on the guest list.
Very good.
And when will that begin developing? When will things go on?
I think we're going to make our first announcement by MiniCon in a couple of weeks.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah.
Okay, so maybe next week when I come in to the shop to do an on-location show, we can talk a little bit more about some of the specifics.
Sure.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah.
All right.
Talk about the announcements we made at MiniCon. The post-MiniCon announcement.
Are you coming in every week or every month?
Every month. Yeah.
Okay. You said next week.
Oh, did I say next week? I'm sorry. Next month.
Next month, yeah. We can definitely talk about it.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, faux pas on my part. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. No, we do too many shows as it is. I definitely couldn't do an on-location show every week.
We do free new comic book day every week. I mean, it's kind of like you got to gear up for it every week. It never stops. There's something to do every day of the week.
Yeah.
In regard to new comics.
Yeah. And you did the recent icy weather throw you guys off?
It absolutely did. A lot of us live in the neighborhood, so we were here working and open. But we missed some of our regulars. We also missed our books coming in a day early so we could process them. So we're about a day and a half behind on work and also on sales.
Yeah. I mentioned toward the beginning of the show that we had planned on doing this on-location show yesterday, Wednesday,
right,
when the comics come out. But we decided that the weather was probably going to get in the way.
We had books here and we had some traffic, but not normal. And today was not normal either.
Yeah.
Hopefully next month in February it'll be a normal Wednesday.
Well, hey, we have Isaiah coming in to get his comics.
Well, we had people coming. We just didn't have everybody coming. Yeah. I talked to other retailers today around the Carolinas, and they were all crying the blues as well.
Yeah.
When people are out of work and out of school, they just soon stay at home and watch TV between playing in the snow. So, it'll be normal later.
Yeah. Well, I very much appreciate you letting me come into the shop and doing these kind of recordings, and I hope to make this a monthly ongoing thing. And then over time, once I'm here over several months, more and more people will get used to coming in and talking
Absolutely.
About what they're reading, what they're coming in for, kind of like Isaiah did when he was sharing his DC titles. And we can discuss, argue, debate, confound.
Well,
all of that.
Typically on a Wednesday night on New Comic Book Day, there is quite a bit of debate going on. So
it's like a barbershop in here.
Yeah, and spoilers, as you pointed out.
And spoilers.
Yeah, a lot of spoilers.
Sometimes.
Well, I thank you for letting me come into the shop again, and I look
welcome.
forward to the months to come coming in. Isaiah, thank you very much for. I mean, you didn't know me from squat when you came in, but hey, you've been here sitting in front of a mic the entire time. I appreciate your input, Karla, Eli. You guys, I do appreciate you talking for this show. Again, this is Heroes Aren't Hard to Find, and it is located at 417 Pecan Avenue in Charlotte, North Carolina. If you're in Charlotte or you're around the Carolinas area, you definitely have to stop in to Heroes Aren't Hard to Find. And then next weekend we have the Minicon. And the location again is where?
It's at the. It's called the Grady Cole Center. It's
Okay.
at the corner of 7th Street and Kings Drive / Central Avenue. It changes names right in that intersection, but it's just a mile from the store.
Okay, so there's the location. Go to heroesonline.com and find out more information about it. And guys, take care. I'll be back next month.
All right, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Derek.